Women, what job would a man have that would be an automatic deal breaker for you? Story 1. A debt collector. David Harewood tells a story about doing debt collection repossessions for one day when he was younger. He was struggling to get work and needed money, so he took the job. His first day, he was sent to take an old lady's television, so he just marked it off as repaid, left the TV, and never went back to work. I was a debt collector for the better part of a year, and I have to say I couldn't agree more. It's a job that attracts some soulless individuals. Every day at lunch, I watched from my car as other lonely people cried in their cars. The atmosphere for most was such that we didn't want to know each other. There wasn't a day that went by without someone on the floor full-on shouting at a debtor over the phone. The tactics seemed cruel and vindictive. Some of the long-timers seemed to relish it. Those were the frickers you wanted to steer clear of. What kind of person enjoys yelling at an 80-year-old grandmother to get off their lazy butt, find some work, and pay their bill? To think that people don't take some of that negativity home with them is just naive. I make a distinction between first and third-party collectors. If you're talking directly to a business's accounts receivable department, you're talking to collectors, but they're incentivized to work with you because you're a customer. I did that for 3 years and helped a lot of people out of bad financial situations with settlement agreements, so they didn't get hit on their credit report. Third-party collectors are the worst. They're the ones that buy the debt from companies, then ruthlessly pursue people. My company only uses first-party collections because it can do a lot of brand damage to be associated with third-party collections. I had a boss once who demonstrated the smarmy, sarcastic, demeaning tone of voice he would use with debtors. It was disgusting in the moment, and he turned out to be a massive piece of doo-doo who managed to fail upwards in his career by being a heartless sociopath to his subordinates. God, I hate corporate management. I wonder if it's actually more like taking the negativity to work, as in that's just who they are. Your comment conjured up one of my first interactions with a debt collector who shouted at me over the phone, at work, a number I had not provided them with, for swiping the paint off the card. I owed them less than $200. That was over 20 years ago. I never paid off that debt, screw that company, and I've never had a credit card since. I paid off my Mervyn's card, but they put a 0.67 charge for something, and then never sent another bill. That 67 cents built up late fee after late fee until it was a total of $80. Still, no bill. I found out about it when an aggressive debt collector called me on the phone and demanded I give him my bank account number. So here I am, believing my debt to be over with, and this guy calls me out of the blue with some story about a credit card which I hadn't used in over a year, and demands I give him access to my bank account or he'll ruin my credit. The whole thing sounded like a fraud to me, but the guy was threatening some serious consequences. He accepted a credit card number for payment. I immediately called Mervyn's to report a fraud, but they told me everything was accurate. When Mervyn's went out of business, I celebrated. That kind of stuff just wears on you over time until you become that butthole. It's hard to maintain your morals and ethics when your livelihood depends on it. Source: sold expensive as frick vacuums to poor people who definitely couldn't afford it. I still regret compromising my ethics for that stupid poopy job. Story 2. Police officer or circus performer. Have dated both. Would never date either again. Congratulations to all of the 50-plus people who made a no clowns joke. Okay, I need to hear the circus performer's story. I can't stand circus performers myself. My reason being that all the ones I know have this constant drive to be the center of attention to a lot of people at all times. And when you try to connect one-on-one, you realize they're kind of a jerk, or they're like, and this is just me, there's kind of a Patrick Bateman, nobody behind the eyes sense to them deep down. I know this sounds crazy to stereotype them all this way, and I've only known a handful of them. But anyway, I'm wondering what your reason for avoiding them is. I went to university in Los Angeles, and you just described 90% of people I knew who wanted to be actors. Actors. I was about to say, I've dated a wannabe actor, and this describes him to a T. what an arrogant piece of garlic hummus-smelling poop he was. That's every type of performer. My stepdaughter is a musical theater major. I would go with her to auditions, and groups of that type of personality made me manic. They all were trying to outdo each other and get louder and louder. The Patrick Bateman thing, there's this guy I know that works for a popular tourist spot in Miami that had this. His face is smiling, but his eyes are not. Creepy as F. That is such a rare profession. I imagine people ask them a bunch of questions and generally make them the center of attention. I have no clue. I've never even met one. I've met a few, and yeah, they were overly dramatic, self-centered, mentally and emotionally unstable people. Also, a host of mental disorders. Might just have been those I met. I dated a cop once. We were together for almost a year. When I first met him, he had a different job and was a really nice guy. Then he became a police officer. Last time I saw him, he told me that there are 3 types of people. Police officers, people who have broken the law, and people that haven't broken a law yet. He became incredibly narcissistic, racist, and rude over the time that we remained friends. He sees every person as a suspect. It's sad. As if cops don't break laws all the time. Being a cop just does poop to people. Guy I knew from school became a cop and changed much like this as well. He's told me about some of the stuff he's seen as a cop, and I think PTSD plays a massive part in what being a cop turns people into. My mom says there's just a small percentage of cops capable of dealing with the stress of being a cop without a large amount of change in their life and views. It's often compounded that those few also prefer not to be put into that position either. Story 3. Life coach. Never again. I dated a former life coach, and he'd say the most mundane stuff ever, or insights I'd already had, but phrased differently, and expect me to shower him with thanks and praise. By the time I left, he was trying to start an MLM. Glad to be out of that one. I got a friend like this. One part of me tries to remind myself that he's trying to help, so I shouldn't be too irritated with him, but like your ex, he really, really wants that good endorphin. And rush of me saying, wow, I never thought of it that way. The real annoying part comes when I dismiss his advice because it legitimately doesn't apply to my situation, but he'll keep pushing and pushing it because he still wants the praise. Me. I need a new phone holder for my car. Him. You should get the kind that magnet clips onto the AC vent. Me. I had one of those for my old phone, but it won't work for this phone. Him. It's so easy to use. You stick a sheet of metal onto your phone, and the magnet holds it. Me. Again, I used to have one. I know how they work. It won't work here. Him. I got one, and it made my life so much easier. It'll make yours easier, too. Me. Again, it won't work for me. See how my phone case is also my wallet? The metal backing won't stick long to this leather. Can't you just drop it when I first told you it wouldn't work? It was rare for me to thank him when he exhibited this behavior. At one point, I remember looking at him silently after he said something obvious, and he said, "You're welcome." Or he'd talk about how people go through their whole lives without knowing the earth-shattering, not, things he was telling me. I typically wasn't looking for advice anyway, but he just couldn't let go of thinking he had the overly simplified solutions to everyone's problems. I think it's an evolutionary baggage thing, like how kittens like to pounce things without knowing it's because doing so makes them better hunters. They just like to pounce things. I think my friend is acting out a quirk that made his ancestors rise through the social ranks by playing the wise guru everyone was grateful to have around, but he doesn't necessarily knowingly do it for that reason. His thinking probably doesn't go beyond, "It feels good when people praise me for my advice." So he's constantly trying to give advice when no one asks. Story 4. Lack of a job and zero desire to get one is a deal breaker for me. He could be 10 out of 10 smoking hot, but if he refuses to work and just sits on his butt all day playing video games and drinking, I'm out. A guy doesn't have to make $60 an hour, but I'm in my 30s. I need someone who has a job and is financially responsible. I'm not looking to be anyone's sugar mama. Edited because a lot of people misread my post. I'm not talking about disabled people. Legitimate reason not to work. People trying to find a job. I think we can all relate. or successful video game streamers. I'm talking about able-bodied guys who can work but refuse to even get a part-time job out of pure laziness. I dated a guy like this once. We shared an apartment. I was working 2 jobs at the time, while he worked part-time but would call in for the stupidest reasons. I'm too tired. My car won't make it through the snow, when there was 0.1 inches of snow on the ground. He didn't contribute, didn't try to better himself, was content being a lazy sack of poop. I left him. Now I'm doing great, and he still depends on others to pay all his bills and expenses. My mother-in-law kept picking up losers from a bar. They'd have a job, get with her, then quit and sit in her trailer drinking all day. The deal breaker was always when they vomited or peed in her bed. The woman did not appreciate getting home from a 12-hour shift at the refinery and not being able to sleep. I love that vomiting or peeing in her bed is the deal breaker because of the sleep aspect. Sorry, babe, I got mad drunk and threw up and peed myself. You mustard! Wait, where was this? It was on the living room couch. Aw, I can't stay mad at you. Yeah, pretty much. Story 5. Chef, DJ, sex worker, drug dealer, politician, sleazy salesman. Surprised it took this long to see chef up there. You can add bartender to that list as well. I'm a chef and I get it 100%. It takes a special person to be able to put up with the amount of time I'm not around. The group I work for is opening a new restaurant where I'm an owner, and that really ratcheted up the workload. It's all in hopes of a better life on the other side in a few years. I make fantastic money for what I do, but it's all about what will be and not what is at the moment. I do love my job, and the people I'm around every day really add to my gratification. My now business partners are all successful industry people who are awesome to talk to about making it and that light at the end of the tunnel. They genuinely want everyone to be happy and successful and pay their employees beyond fairly, which is a rarity in this industry. However, the grind is real. I pray to be successful to allow myself a life I never thought I could have, and I'm more than halfway there. A side note would be that I'm also the only chef in my group that is sober and actively takes care of themselves and works out. Most, I know, allow alcohol to consume them and get stuck in this cycle of abuse and anxiety. It's not an easy profession, and it's less conductive than most careers when it comes to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. I have to semi-disagree on the chef. Don't date a working chef. He's going to be in a crappy mood after cooking all day for other people, and you'll either be cooking yourself or ordering out a lot because he dang sure won't want to cook at home. However, I married a former chef, as in hasn't worked in a restaurant in years, and he does all the cooking in the house because he wants to. Story 6. Real estate agent. Never again. I worked in sales for a number of years, and the ultra-competitive D-bags it attracts is unreal. I've always wondered if real estate isn't similar. Based on the presentation of some realtors, it looks worse. Way, way worse. It has a lot of terrible people, a lot of stupid people, and a lot of wonderful people. Upside, downside of something with basically no barrier to entry. My dad worked as a real estate agent for a while. He eventually concluded he cared too much about people to be successful. As a guy who dated a woman realtor, yep, never again. In sales, you have to get used to white lies. That permeates into the relationship. Also, if they're dedicated to their job, that means they're never off. Oh, I want a nice dinner with them, but a lead call comes in. Guess what's happening? Yep, they're taking the lead call. You end up playing second fiddle to their job. Story 7. My ex was a massage therapist at a strip club. Like, he gave the strippers massages because their muscles got tired. I wouldn't date another one-off. A real massage therapist or a creep who walked in the back door with a bottle of scented oil and set up shop? I see you've read my business plan. Good tips? I did not realize that would be a job. I DM'd you my resume. Would love it if you could pass it along to him. That's interesting that he actually gets paid to do that. I'm a stripper, and men typically pay me to give me a back and foot massage. Sorry, but I read this, and the first thing I thought of was Bender from Futurama. Would approve. A registered massage therapist doing therapeutic massage is pretty different from Rex Ryan rubbing your feet. Story 8. I would always swipe left during my dating years on any dude with entrepreneur as his occupation. Hard nope. I'm an entrepreneur. I never call myself an entrepreneur. I own a tax firm. I say, I run a tax firm, or simply, I'm an accountant. Saying you're an entrepreneur usually means you're an unsuccessful entrepreneur, unemployed. Yeah, most actual entrepreneurs will tell you what exactly they do, not just entrepreneurs. Pretty enthusiastic about what they usually do. Code for unemployed in most cases. In other cases, entrepreneurs just give off major narcissist energy. Can confirm, unemployed and narcissist. Won't make that mistake again. Story 9. Personally, I wouldn't want to date anyone famous, especially if there's someone who gets swarmed by fans. Same, anything famous or public-facing, actor, politician, because no matter how much you try to keep yourself private, you will be talked about in the media. There are a few celebrity couples who have been pretty successful at drawing those lines, Dolly Parton and Carl Dean, but even the strongest lines are blurry to some degree. K-pop fans can be particularly possessive of their idols. There have even been some cases where fans harassed and threatened their idols' girlfriends so badly that their relationships came to an end. Story 10. An army soldier who is active on the ground, or could be deployed any time. I'd be terrified of losing the man I love to the horror of war. I'd rather be alone. It's his decision to give up his life or sanity for war, but I just can't be a partner and potential caregiver to someone like that. I already lost a happy childhood. I can't sacrifice any more. My rule is military and first responders, particularly police officers. Number 1, that's a boatload of trauma I'm not prepared to deal with. Having dated someone with really bad PTSD on top of my own trauma, it really made things worse for my mental health. And number 2, every time I've matched with one of them on Tinder, the following conversation gave me weird AF vibes. It takes a certain type of person to be a partner for someone in those professions. Story 11. I met a man who makes artisanal fleshlights at a party in Los Angeles. Would not date that guy. Is that the best place to make them? Was his name something like Majilik from the South? I forget his actual name. If so, he's actually pretty well known on the internet. He works for movie studios as a prop person for his day job. The oddball joking fleshlight became a big TikTok thing. Could be someone else, but yeah, that guy's in LA now. Saw him on a podcast recently. I've been to a number of parties in Los Angeles. Depending on the party, yes, absolutely. Story 12. Politician, puppy clubber, professional internet complainer. What in the fresh hell is a puppy clubber? People that bring their dogs out to the club. And I'm with OP, that's a health code violation. Screw those people. Well, that's a lot better than I first imagined. I thought it was someone who clubbed puppies. You're thinking of seals, mate. It's the lovely, fluffy baby seals we club. Baby seals are called pups. Story 13. A choo-choo conductor. Last thing I want to do is see your smug face as you slowly pass the tracks, making me late for work. Where I used to live, I had to cross 3 railroads and a drawbridge. One week, I got caught at one of them on my way to and or from work every day. On Thursday, I announced to my coworkers that they all should watch the news that night, because if I got caught one more time, they were going to see me get out of my car beating on the barricade with a tire iron. There's no way they're not doing it on purpose. I keep telling myself this. Story 14. Slaughterer on a farm. Doing this on a daily basis has a huge impact on the personality, and it's totally not what I'm looking for. Worked in a slaughterhouse many years ago in a region less constricted by pesky poll regulations. I remember a guy on the floor bringing his kid in and letting him pull the trigger like it was a game. He was there so often and worked the gun so much, the owner bought him a kid-sized hard hat. Owner got a lot of free work on his floor because a dad brought his kid in, and they worked together like it was a game. Story 15. Man who likes men here, but, influencer. Dating an influencer makes you a cameraman. Woman who likes women here, but absolutely hard agree. Lesbian influencers are rising in popularity so fast, dating is a get ready with me, what I'm wearing today, nighttime, routine date night nightmare. I think I wouldn't mind handling the camera or the technical side of streaming and lighting. Still don't think I'd want to spend that much time with an influencer though. Story 16. Homeopathic cancer researcher. Oh, a BS artist. Story 17. Ladies, find yourself a truck driver. We make the best partner. You miss us, we come back. We start to annoy you when we're home, we leave again. I don't know, man. The amount of truck drivers I see on Grindr that are just passing through makes me skeptical. Oh, I'm sure. A lot out there are taking advantage of a wait time. That's certainly not my thing. It's way different from here in Alaska anyway. Story 18. Multi-level marketing, whole life insurance sales, selling how to get rich quick packages, and of the like. That's hustle and scammy. I can never remember what MLM means, so I always think of Major League Marketing when I see it. Many lose money. Most lose money. Possibly must lose money. Story 19. Necromancer. Not making that mistake again. Did you get one-shotted with a bone spear? Unfortunately, you can't say you wouldn't be caught dead with a necromancer again. Arise. When he said he wanted to raise a family with me, I thought he meant something else. Story 20. Anything related to shagging, drugs, fetishes, etc. Anything along the lines of those, and worse, of course. Sad pharmacist noises. Pill counter rattles dejectedly. That's the West Virginia mating call. Story 21. Pimp, human trafficker. Well, frick. Yes, that's the business they are referring to. Story 22. Pimp. I do know one thing about that job. It ain't easy. A pimp's love is very different from that of a square. Story 23. Reddit mod. People get paid for that? Story 24. Law enforcement. The profession seems to attract controlling types. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.